Madam Mayor, we are live and recording. You can begin whenever you wish.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Welcome everyone to our final meeting of 2024. Our regular council meeting today, of course, being December 17th. Before we begin, just remind you that the meeting itself is being recorded and live streamed to the Township's YouTube channel. We do, of course, have participants joining us from Zoom as well as from in the council chambers. So as is always the case, council, please raise your hand and I'll call on you if you wish to speak on a matter. We'll begin with calling the roll, starting with Deputy Mayor Nelson.
Present.
Councillor Watt.
Present.
Councillor Johnston.
Present.
Councillor Report.
Present.
And of course myself, Mayor Heather Watson. We have our, I know who you are. We have our clerk, the deputy CAO, Martina Taylor. Good afternoon. Our CAO, Todd Davis, our treasurer, Paul Kramer. Hello, welcome. I haven't spoke to deputy mayor. That's right. That wouldn't be appropriate at all. Okay, so with everyone in attendance, I will call the meeting to order, beginning with the land acknowledgement. We respectfully acknowledge that we are on the lands which are part of the 1818 Treaty 20 and the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe bands of the Great Ojibwe Nation. We offer our gratitude to the Ojibwe for their care and knowledge of the lands on which we work, live, and enjoy. May we honor and respect their teaching and our treaty obligations as we grow together. And we'll just pause for a moment of silent reflection, please. Okay. Moving along, of course, the agenda was distributed in advance of today's meeting. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest? Seeing nothing, I'm looking for an adoption of the agenda as amended. There was an additional bylaw that was added after it was circulated. Deputy Mayor Nelson?
So moved.
Thank you. Councillor Watt, seconded. All in favor? And that motion carries. On with the adoption of the minutes and business arising from the minutes. We just have one set of minutes, our regular council meeting from December 3rd. Motion on that, folks. Councillor Johnston, seconded by Deputy Mayor Nelson. Any discussion? All in favor? And that motion carries. Thank you. We do have a number of items on consent. Is there anything here that any member of council wants to hold for discussion later on in the agenda? Councilor Watt?
Yes, 7.3 if I could, please.
7.3.
Unless it's already been forwarded on to our service groups. It has? All right, then I will pull that request then.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Are there any other items that a member would like to hold for discussion? Seeing nothing, then simply a motion.
Receive.
Thank you, Councilor Johnston, and that's seconded by Deputy Mayor Nelson. All in favor, and that motion carries. Thank you. On to delegations. We have none. No registered comments from the public this evening. So on to staff reports. Item 10.1, the report and capital project status. Council, do you have any questions of staff on the report that's before you today? No, then just a motion to receive that. Deputy Mayor Nelson, seconded by, I'm going to say,
I know he's going to put his hand up.
I know, I paused long enough. Councilor Report will put up his hand. Councilor
Little lag.
Little lag there. Oh,
Sorry, I was reading something.
that motion carries. You can tell it's the end of the year, we're all a little sloppy perhaps. Okay, on to item 10.2, the 2025 user fees, and that I will hand over to Mr. Kramer for an overview of that report.
No? Okay, well, so, through Madam Mayor to council, before you is report Treasurer 2024-26 regarding the 2025 user fees. The report in front of you outlines any of the changes that are being proposed to the user fee bylaw. I could highlight a few of the changes here, so. The key changes anyways, and overarching changes to the bylaw. So in section 5 for fire, our fire chief did outline this fee change at his committee of the whole report and address this, not in length, but he did address this and explain the change. So a fee for response to non-permitted uses has been added. So this will be charged out at the MTO rate, similar to the other charges in the bylaw. Under section 10.1 for the finance department, there is a credit card fee that this was adopted by council in 2023. It just had not been officially added to the user fee bylaw, more of an administrative kind of miss, but we're making sure that it is updated and in the bylaw going forward. One of the changes, I guess, that would differ from that report is that we are not going to be applying the credit card fee to any facility payments made for facility bookings. And the main reason, well, there's a couple of reasons, but the main one is that the booking software that we will be using to accept payments does not allow for a processing fee to be added. I think too, if we look at who is going to be paying the large portion of the fees and the rentals, it is the minor hockey associations, and we expect them to continue to pay through checks. You know, I don't, the volume of the checks that we receive in terms of dollar value, I don't think would make sense for them to pay through credit cards, and so we will also be looking at maybe addressing it through all of those payment options through a policy going forward, depending on how this plays out over the next little while. We do see this more as those one-off payments, people renting facilities more on a one-off basis who will be looking to pay through credit card. And in this instance, it makes sense because it does provide a service and a easier process for people to make that payment through credit cards. For planning application fees, we have increased for the most part 2% with rounding to even numbers. I do want to note that Cash in lieu Parkland, we haven't increased it as of this bylaw, but do expect a little bit of review coming forward earlier in the new year on the rate that is being charged. We, looking back over the history of our bylaws, this fee has not changed in quite some time. And obviously, land values have changed. And this fee is supposed to be based on land values. So we're going to take a little bit more of a comprehensive review that couldn't be completed in time for this user fee bylaw, but if we have any changes, we will bring them forward in a separate report. Let me just see. For Parks and Recreation, these are increased by 3%, and that's been in place now for a few years. This was to avoid, in the past few years, if we were trying to increase at the rate of inflation to reflect the increase in costs that we are incurring, we would have had higher cost increases. You know, inflation over the past few years was upwards of 7%. So this was to minimize and not have a one-time large increase. And so we've tried to smooth the increases by approximating it at 3% per year. This can be reviewed in the future, I think, if we continue to see rates under 2%, but we aren't there over the long term yet. And at that point, any questions from council? Happy to answer.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kramer. Council, over to you. Councilor Johnston.
To the chair, one, I don't see it right here now, but one of the things you just said about the lieu of Parkland, I think I read that, I don't know where it's in front of me right now, but something like 25% you might be looking at. Wherever I read it, all I can say is if it's going to be a big amount, I'd rather do it over a couple of years, just like our policing come down. I'm not saying we can't get there, but I don't think we have to put one large sum on all at once. Okay? That's what I'd like to make note of that.
Any other questions or comments to staff? I will jump in with a couple, Mr. Kramer. So you were talking about the credit card fees, 2%. Is that what it was? I'm just trying to find it again, back to reference it.
Through Mayor, 2.5%.
2.5%, my apologies. So is that, are we gaining on some and losing on some other transactions? Is, because I know certain cards charge a different percentage and online, like e-transactions and versus carded pinned transactions charge a different percent, but we're all talking like 1/4, 1/10% each way, right? Are you just doing like a mean for that?
Yeah, through Mayor, exactly. So we are doing, exactly, it's an average that we've received from Maris of what most people experience in a given month, is about 2.5%. But you're right, some are upwards, the odd one, I think Amex is upwards of 4. And so when we look at the average though, it's about 2.5%.
Okay, thank you. And one other question, and I know Chief Pedersen referenced this in his committee of the whole report, but the fees related to fire, I'm just trying to pull that up. This might be tough for you, and I apologize if it's not something you can answer, maybe Chief can get back, but what's with the weighting on the MTO fees? Like what's the reliance, like everything that we're charging is related to, 2x the current MTO rate or 3x the MTO rate, or why is MTO dictating what we're charging on fire related? So the Ministry of Transportation is, I believe is what was cited. So I just don't understand the connection there.
To Madam Mayor, I think the chief could bring further information, but my experience shows that this is it creates a standard across the board that most fire departments use for charge out rates. And they update this rate and they look at, so the MTO, if they were to respond to a call, and this is a lot of times what they would provide payment for if we respond to calls on highways, and if they need to provide us payment for things that we do for them, and that's kind of standard across the province. And so this is pretty common practice to base our charge out rates to anyone that we need to charge a rate to, based on the rate that MTO would provide to us.
Okay, it's a fair answer. I don't want to hold your feet to the fire, literally, and pun intended on this, too much, because I know it's not your portfolio, but I know that, was it just a month and a half ago, we were in that exercise with fire management, and, they're talking about if the NRF needs to bring in helicopter resources or other, actual fire resources to support us in a fire call, and they've got a schedule. So I'm just curious why we're aligning our fees with the MTO as opposed to NRF, for example, because I feel like NRF is more related to what we do. Do you have an answer to that, or and if not, that's okay. I wouldn't expect you to.
Just to Madam Mayor, very quickly, I think I would expect that the rates are actually fairly aligned between MTO and NRF. I can't say for sure. I would expect that they would be. The exercise that we did, we wouldn't be looking at charging out the helicopter rates, and so we are looking at what 1 hour per truck per crew is, and that's the rate. I think it standardizes it. It's a kind of an accepted rate across the board that we aren't trying to skew and increase any larger or less than anyone else in the province.
Understood. Thank you. Deputy Mayor Nelson?
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor. And in answer to your question, as far as I understand it as well, Chuck is probably the expert to ask, but as far as I understand it, just from Public Works previously, I believe that if you put in a bill, or one municipality puts in one bill, they won't pay any more than what their rates are set for, the recovery rates. So I believe that is why they go to the MTO rates. That's my understanding of it.
Yeah.
Because they're not going to pay more to the municipality than what they've set the rate up. If you don't understand.
I do understand,
Yeah.
and thank you for that clarification, Deputy Mayor. I'm just more concerned, and it's not really concern, and to Mr. Kramer's point, you know, one ministry is probably the same as another ministry if they have a fee structure for this. But it just seems that when we're linking our fire and emergency services to an MTO rate as opposed to MRF, who also has probably a schedule as well, or it just seems weird, like, since when do we report to MTO from a fire standpoint, or like, why are we aligning the two departments, if you will?
Back to you again.
Yeah.
For example, with 28 highway going through here, when our fire service goes there and they want to charge something back, the work is being done on the MTO highway.
Yeah.
And they have all the say.
Yeah.
It basically, in that regard.
Yeah.
Or what the rates, what somebody's going to, an outside, is going to charge. So that's kind of the reason why, or just in a nutshell.
And not to belabor it, Deputy Mayor, but, you know, I understand if we're responding to a call on Highway 28, but some of these fees that they're proposing at MTO rate, using that line, you know, a response to open air burning violations. Is that happening on Highway 28, or is that happening on somebody's farm? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
I understand.
so why are we aligning that with MTO? Madam Clerk?
Through you, Madam Mayor, there was a report on this back in 2023 that came to council, where council actually approved using of MTO rates. And I can just read an excerpt from that report if it's helpful.
Sure, thank you.
So our process alarm, so in particular, we're speaking to the false alarm bylaw. With 20 volt rates, our new bylaw utilizes the Ministry of Transportation rates as we do for other fire department responses. This rate typically changes annually and is set by the MTO for fire department response for motor vehicle collisions. And so that's when it was introduced. And I think it's because MTO will pay us that rate. They won't pay us over that rate. And I think it's something that I imagine insurance companies won't. We can get more details, but it was approved back in
No, absolutely, and I appreciate that. The question still stands because I don't imagine the MTO is doing any boat response, as an example. But we're tying into their boat, like that rate. So, it's one of the key lines.
Yeah.
It seems a little strange to me. So I'll leave it at that. I will leave it at that. Sorry, Councillor Johnson.
Through the chair. Paul, excuse me, but I understand about on the planning, about those increases for the fees. But in one I was probably looking at those numbers, was the entrance fee. The entrance permit for a fee, increased by 25%. Now, I'm not suggesting that we don't need that, but all I'm suggesting is that maybe we do it over 2 years and increase it, you know, half 1 year and half another, compared to one shot 25. Okay.
Through Mayor to Councillor Johnson, that's definitely something that can be recommended by council. I think when we look at the fact that it has not increased since 2014, we'd probably be looking closer, you know, and if we were to be charging the same rate today that we were in 2014, you know, I bet it's greater than 25%. And so one of the things though, we do try to keep a little bit more round numbers. And so I think for the longest time they were $100. We also did a bit of a comparison to some of our neighbors, and even at a 25% increase, I think that puts us to 125, and our neighbors are at 150. And then that's just a reflection of us not increasing over the past 11 years. So if that's how council wants us to amend the bylaw, of course that would be up to council.
Well, that's just my opinion. Council can speak on that.
Okay, Councillor Johnson, thank you. Any other questions or comments on that? Councillor Ward.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Watson. Just a follow-up question, Paul, based on Mayor Watson's question. the services that the MTO rate applies to, do they generate, is that like a significant line item income wise, or is it relatively small compared to the overall fees collected?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Councilor Brevoort. It's one of those things where I don't want to be off. I don't want to comment incorrectly. So even if I had a couple of minutes to dive into the numbers, I could comment more accurately, but just not off the top of my head. Sorry.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, through you, Mayor Watson. My sneaking suspicion anyway is that these are probably minimal dollar amounts over the course of the year. It's not going to be exorbitant. And just a quick follow-up too, I guess, on Councillor Johnson's concern on the 25% increase. It's 25% is a large percentage, but in terms of overall dollars, it's not really. I think it's one thing to increase a fee that's already $1,000. To increase it by 25% is quite a bit, but for something that's $100 that hasn't been changed in 10 years, it doesn't feel like too big of a lift fee wise. And I guess kind of with those comments, I'd like to make a motion to receive the report.
Okay. Is that Councillor Before, are you receiving and approving? Like, are you?
Receiving, and then I'd like to make a motion to pass the bylaw at the appropriate time in the meeting.
Understood. All right. Thank you very much. Somebody to second that motion? Deputy Mayor Nelson? Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor? And that motion carries. Thank you very much. On to item 10.3, pre-budget request, implementation of GovStack for the Township website.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the current hosting platform for the Township website is iCreate. It's going to be discontinued in less than 2 years, which necessitates a migration to a new platform. Township staff have worked with GHB, which was previously eSolutions, to receive discounted pricing, approximately 20% plus free staff training, to migrate us sooner to GovStack, this new platform. GHB staff have informed our staff that they are not able to hold this pricing into Q1, that it has to be signed off on during this quarter. So we're bringing this report now. Just to go over some of the reasons why we think it's a good time to move. Not only are we getting a better deal, but throughout the strategic planning process, staff and council heard that the township needs to modernize its service delivery and the tools we use for communications to the public. One of those focus areas was the township website. And there's a list of issues that the public and participants brought up, which I can go through if you like. But with the potential move to GovStack, staff have identified various improvements and cost savings that we could realize through this move. I have spoken to other communities in our area who have already completed the move. That's Asheville, Norwood, and North Fortha. They've both completed their full migration. And I did speak to them about that process, how it went, how much staff time it took, and they had relatively good things to say, and they're much happier with the way their websites operate today under the GovStack model than before, because they're able to make significant changes without having to hire or pay for those changes to be created. They can be done in post. Further to the savings, by doing this early migration, there are some additional savings that we'll realize in 2025. We will have our annual cost for the website reduced by $1,295 for the year. And with this migration, we will also be able to discontinue our subscription for Pluto, which is a website search tool, which will be a savings of almost $2,700. So I'm happy to go into all the details. If there's questions or anything I can answer.
Council, what would you like to do? Councilor Watt, and then Councilor Ward.
Thank you very much for the report. Our website is very crucial, and having a proper working one that is as user-friendly as possible, you know, for staff and for, the citizens is, a big part of where things are nowadays with local government. So I see a lot of good things in here. And I'd be happy to make a motion to approve the pre-budget request and let's go ahead with this and recognize the savings. I do have one question. Does Mike, our IT guy, have much to do with this? Like, has he kind of looked it over, or is it something different for him that, as far as the IT goes? Because I'm sure he probably would have some input on how well this is put together too.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Watt. As you know, Mike works partially for us and partially for Asheville and Douro. So he was a party to their switchover. And he's also reviewed the documents and sat on some webinars with me and some sales calls. So he could kind of go over the tech side of things and I could do the public facing side. So he's in support of this move as well.
Excellent. That's good. Thank you very much. So I will
come
make
back.
that motion if you want to come back to me.
Can I come back to you on that? Because Councillor Report did have his hand up. Councillor Report?
Thank you, Mayor Watson. Through you, Martina, this the iCreate hosting, that's one that is pretty much standard across most municipalities in rural Ontario right now, correct?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Herbert, that's correct. They also host many larger cities, Mississauga, Brampton, some of those, 100,000 plus communities.
Okay, I guess kind of where I'm going with this one is that if that hosting is going to be discontinued pretty much across the province, we could see ourselves lacking support with the transition at some point in the future too. So I think it's well worth jumping on board earlier and getting whatever support we need in the interim. So I would be happy to second Councillor Watt's motion.
Okay, when that motion is made, any other questions from council?
I will ask one question. So I'm on the Asheville Norwood site right now, Madam Clerk. And I know one of the challenges that I hear from residents is just being able to pull up old reports and like off from agendas. So if you search, GovStack, for example, it seems like it brings up 25 years worth of every time it's been mentioned to be able to find that. Is this going to be a little bit easier for residents to access reports and information online?
So through you, Madam Mayor, the searching of reports and agendas is actually through eScribe, which is our agenda management site. That's embedded within the website. So there are two different services that you look at the same page. Further to our budget discussions, when we get there, there are some items that we're going to be bringing forward that will maybe take us a few years, but will improve that search capability over the long term as we potentially migrate away from our current agenda platform.
Okay, all right, thank you. I was thinking that perhaps you had mentioned in your report this evening that we would be able to discontinue the website search tool Cluedo. So I was thinking that was that.
No,
It's not that.
sadly.
Okay.
Through you, Madam Mayor, Cluedo does the website itself, and then it also runs through the site. And I don't quite understand the tech side of it, but basically crawls the site for all the different keywords and then allows searching to take place.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you. I believe we have some eager members looking to make a motion. Councilor Watt?
I will make a motion to receive the report with thanks, and that we pre-approve the cost, pre-budget for the cost to go ahead and implement this policy or this website and all the details with it. And we'll realize the cost savings through the initial and the upcoming in the year that we will save time and money on.
Okay, thank you very much, Councilor Watt. Councilor Report, are you still willing to second that motion?
Thank you, Mayor Watson. Yes, definitely willing to second that.
Any discussion on the motion? All in favor? And that motion carries. Thank you very much. On to item 10.4, council member appointments, and this is also from Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is just a short report to council regarding our committee appointments for the year. So as you know, at the beginning of the term of council, various members were appointed to our boards and committees. This report is just to kind of provide a quick update on that. So for the Arena Facilities Future Ad Hoc Committee, Councillor Johnson was placed on that, and the term of that committee has been extended for any work that's going to be necessary for the community center feasibility study, which Mike Mood has told us about at the recent committee of the whole meeting. The Committee of Adjustment member is Deputy Mayor Nelson. He served 2 terms so far on that committee, 2022 to 2023, and then 2023 to 2024. Membership to that committee for council members has to be reappointed every year under the Planning Act. For Committee of the Whole, Councillor Watt has been the chair. A new chair will be appointed at the first meeting in 2025, so that will take place in February. For the Events Committee, Councillor Johnson is the appointee. Currently, the committee is not operational due to a lack of interest, but we have been able to hold some successful events nonetheless, so that's wonderful. Councillor Johnson and staff have worked on those events and in place of the committee. For the Library Board, Councillor Watt has been appointed. He will serve the full term of council as the appointee there unless he wishes something different. And then for the Autonomy Region Conservation Authority Board, Councillor Berber is going to serve on that term for the full term of council. And then for the new Police Services Board, Mayor Watson is sitting on that, and that will be from 2024 until 2026. One item that was missing from my report is going to be, or is, the upcoming hiring of a new planner. So as we know, our planner is going to be retiring shortly, and under our policy, a member of council is required to sit on that hiring committee. So if council wishes, now would be a good time to appoint someone, as we will begin working on that search early in the new year. So the 2 appointments that need to be clarified or verified today is the Committee of Adjustment appointment, and then a member to sit on that hiring committee.
Okay, thank you very much. Council, questions, discussions? Councillor Watt, you would have something to say.
Yeah, okay, thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Yeah, so the one that, the Committee of Adjustment, unless Deputy Mayor Nelson doesn't want to do it anymore, like he's done training, all that stuff, so I think that's just a very, very straightforward one. And sorry, but what was the second one?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Watt. So we have to form a hiring committee for the planner. So as we know, Christine is retiring, so we need to look into a replacement. And under our hiring policy, we must have a member of council on any hiring for a senior manager. And so we need a member of council to sit on that committee with us. And it'd be ideal if we could have someone early in the process, so we don't have to come back halfway through and have someone join us at that time.
So if council would like, perhaps if anybody wants to express interest in sitting on that, based on timing, I imagine we'll begin that hiring process early in the year, just thinking about your schedules. Let me know, and then we can make that decision. Does council need to ratify that decision?
Through you, Madam Mayor, yes, it does have to be a council appointment.
Can we do that at a special council meeting on January 7th or 9th?
Yeah, we can
In
definitely do
advance
that.
of the budget meeting?
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah. Is that Councilor Johnson?
To the chair, why would the whole council sit on it?
Because historically, our bylaw is that we have one member of council hire managers with staff, right? Like the relevant staff is part of that, and then council as a whole hires our CAO.
Okay, just a comment on that, is when we hired other ones, like the expected for the plant, not for the plant, but for the, our, one inspector, the whole council sat on it, when we did our building inspector.
I think it was after that, that council can change that, because like, the discussion at the time, if I recall, was that it can be quite intimidating for an individual to be sitting not just with 5 members of council and having to organize a clerk, because it then becomes a meeting, a closed meeting, and going through that process, right? and trying to coordinate a special council meeting with 5 members of council to coordinate with interviews. Not to mention, you know, that manager's direct supervisor and another manager, like that was decided by council to have like a smaller hiring team. But we would have a council appointee as part of that smaller hiring team, just from a logistics standpoint, when we're trying to bring in interviewees.
Yeah, I guess my own comment is that you gotta come back to council, right? Or no?
No,
No?
through letter, it would only have to come back, if there was something in the negotiations that was outside of council's existing policies.
So the only legislative right that we have is to hire a CAO, right? Like that's the only thing that the municipal act gives us the authority to do. There are times, like as the clerk had stated, that come to us if there's, you know, something maybe the hire is out of budget, or, you know, with the negotiation process, there may be asking for something that's atypical, that's outside of our existing vacation policies or benefits policies or something to that effect. Or we'll come to council if there's, what's the word I'm looking for, like when we hire a clerk, we have to deputize somebody as a clerk or a CAO, and enact a bylaw to ratify that. Our CAO has something to say.
Well, I was just gonna say, typically, in hiring practices of municipal councils, the, council has the oversight of that, the sole employee. Generally, I'm the sole employee of council and not everybody else who works for me.
Yeah.
But in the appointment process, we appoint a treasurer and a clerk. So you may not have decision-making authority as to who that clerk is, but you have the right to appoint them. The rest of them are contained in your employee policy. In the employee policies layout, if we were going to deviate from that, or we were going to add a new position of some description, that requires council's approval for the position, not the individual that fills. That makes sense.
Thank you.
Councilor Watt.
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem with that. I think you and I discussed one time about, this very thing, and it used to be all 5 members of council, then I thought it went to 2. And then maybe now it's 1, but I thought we had 2 in there at one time before Alana came in, or when she was here, so we got, but it may not have, I could be wrong on that, but I thought it went 2, and then we didn't do any for a while, so. Yeah,
So I will go back to that, and say, if any of you are interested in sitting on that committee with staff, and I'm assuming that staff will be our CAO.
Yes.
And then another member of our management team and member of council, that's effectively the committee makeup.
That's the intention here.
Deputy Mayor Nelson?
Madam Mayor, I'd be interested in sitting on the committee or put my name forward. If somebody else wants to do that, that's okay too.
Yeah, I mean,
But-
people can come forward,
Yeah.
but thank you for expressing your willingness to do that. If people want to bring their names forward, before January 3rd, we can,
Sure, as soon as, anytime before that, it's great.
before January 3rd, then we can appoint somebody at our January 6th special meeting before our budget committee meeting or right after our budget meeting. We'll figure that out right after. Okay. That's what.
just curiosity, and, you know, Francis, are you interested? And I don't want to put you on the spot, I'm not Counselor Johnston, not, so we can deal with this right now.
Well, they better ask him.
What's that?
There's another guy who got here.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, let's just wait.
Yeah.
Let's just wait.
Yeah, okay, that's fine.
So going back to the report. Committee of Adjustment,
I was
you're
staying on.
sitting on that committee,
Everybody wants to.
and,
Library's fine for me.
everybody else is fine with their appointments. So I believe at this point, we just need a motion to receive and approve the report as written.
So
Councillor Johnston, seconded by Councillor Fort. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor? That motion carries. Thank you very much. Where are we? We are on 10.5, the realignment of the 12th Line Road. Done, Madam Clerk. Busy night for you.
Yeah, thank you, Roger. This is my last one, I hope.
We'll just throw another one in there.
Yeah, that's right. So in 2018, with the help of provincial funding, the township undertook a large project, to improve the 12th line road Dummer. Through this project, one of the big pieces was straightening out the road by purchasing land from adjacent landowners and then adding them to the road system, which would allow us to remove some of the dangerous turns in the road, as well as improving the road surface, drainage, and those types of things. As part of the improvement of the 12th line, an agreement was made between the township and Drain Brothers regarding an exchange of land to improve the road. The agreement was to exchange land, which would allow for new vertical and horizontal realignment to be accomplished by traveling over the current gravel pit property. Drain Brothers have created the first overpass in the township to allow the 12th line to travel in a straighter and safer path, while also improving access to the gravel pit for their operations. In the package, you will find a road realignment documents that were created by Engage Engineering, who have been the engineers on this project all along with a letter from our former CAO regarding the agreement and GIS maps showing the section of road to be impacted. So to facilitate the opening of the road, like this new section of road, various actions need to be taken. The new section of road must be legally transferred to the township from Drain Brothers, and this section must be added to the township road network by bylaw. The current section of the 12th line needs to be deemed as surplus, stopped up and closed and transferred to Drain Brothers. Once those transfers have taken place and the road is part of the township road system, the new section can be used by the public. So due to all of these steps that need to be taken, staff is recommending the following: that the sections of the 12th line road which are affected by the required land swap and to be identified on a final survey be deemed surplus, and the township staff be authorized to engage with the township's legal team to draw up all necessary land transfer agreements required to complete this project, and that the mayor and clerk be delegated the authority to sign all of the aforementioned agreements. And lastly, that a bylaw to bring the new sections of roadway into the township road system and remove the old sections be brought before council as soon as the necessary transfer documents have been registered.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Deputy Mayor Nelson.
Through you, Madam Mayor. Martina, has the new section been surveyed as built?
Through your mind, we're waiting on that survey right now. We're supposed to have it over the Christmas holiday, so we are hoping to get direction from council so that we can move this quickly once that survey is in our hands.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Councilor Watt.
Thank you, through Madam Mayor. This may be a question that Deputy Mayor might have a little more information on, because him and I have traveled the 12th line on different business, different places. When it went around that corner and then came back around, swung around again, there was a house to the south, back towards number 7 down low. It was part of the roadway, I think, but it was like, I think the snow plowed in part way and there was an old farmhouse in there. And I'm guessing that's been accommodated somehow, probably giving them a longer laneway, but something, is that kind of the way I'm seeing this map? It's really, it's hard to
I think
to
staff will
visualize.
answer this question.
Through the mayor to Councilor Watt, I believe part of the work that's been conducted by Drain Brothers is to amend the driveway so that it aligns with the new proposed road so that they have access. So all properties that would be private properties that would have been impacted by the changing system have been remedied. So every single, all of those properties have access to the appropriate roads.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, because that one was kind of an oddball, but it did come off that corner and back south for quite a distance and then in a laneway, I believe. But I don't know if that whole thing to the south was there a laneway or whether it was part of Township Road.
Just put a stop
And
sign
then,
there.
yeah, it's been a while, but I do remember that in, and I thought that would have been a little different for them to either have a way longer laneway to plow or we've accommodated it in somehow. So, you know, that's good. All right, appreciate it. Thank you very
Any
much.
other questions or comments on the report that's before you this evening, council? Seeing nothing, just looking for a motion. Deputy Mayor Nelson.
I'll move and make the motion on the recommendations.
Thank you very much. Councilor
I'll
Johnson.
second it.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? I think this is an exciting chapter that we've been able to move forward with.
Just,
Yeah.
sure. Should we also state that not until we get the survey? Put that in there?
It's part of the motion.
Pardon?
It's part of the motion. It was a multi-part
Okay.
motion.
Okay.
So all in favor?
Yeah.
That motion carries. Thank you. Okay, moving along, item 11, committee of the whole minutes. Just a motion to approve those. Councillor Watt, seconded by Councillor Verboort. Any discussion? All in favor? Three, thank you. Correspondence, we have a letter from Maureen Howard. Councillor Johnston,
Let's make a motion to receive.
thank you. Would somebody like to second that motion? Deputy Mayor Nelson, any discussion on the motion? All in favor? That motion carries, thank you. We have some bylaws, 13.1 to provide user fees and charges bylaw that we were talking about earlier. Councillor
So
Watt,
moved.
thank you. Councillor Verboort, you're seconding that? Any discussion? All in favor? And that motion carries. And we have the bylaw to stop and close the portion of 6th line north allowance. Councillor Johnston,
Pass that on.
thank you. Deputy Mayor Nelson, any discussion? All in favor? And that motion carries. Perfect. We have no reports from notices of motion. Are there any notices of motion? Seeing nothing. Announcements. Announcements. Well, given that this is our last meeting of council for the new year, I'll simply announce that Christmas is around the corner. We're it's away from the big guy. 10, 7? Not 10.
7,
7 days, 8 days,
8.
8 days away from the big guy.
The countdown clock in my house.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that's why I looked at you. I knew that. Yeah, just wishing everybody a safe and happy Christmas and Hanukkah and New Year and holiday season. And looking forward to seeing everybody back in the new year. That's my announcement. We have no closed session. No matters in closed session. Confirming calendar, yes.
I just want to, I know that normally this is council makes announcements, but I just wanted just a reminder to the general public that the municipal offices are closed from December 24th through January 1st. So we will have services will be in effect on December 23rd if you have anything to do before the end of the year. And we will reopen on January 2nd if you have anything to do in the early.
Thank you very much. And the confirming bylaw. Councillor Watt, seconded by Deputy Mayor Nelson, all in favor. That motion carries. And some highlights to some meetings. We've got our first budget draft meeting on January 7th at 10, followed by a second part on January 9th at 10, and then our regular council meeting will be January 21st. Motion to adjourn. Deputy Mayor Nelson, Councillor Johnston, all in favor, and that motion carries. Wonderful morning.